What up, Pittsburgh Steeler fans? It is Matty P here with another episode of Steelers Mad Monday. I'm missing my partner in crime, Marky Davison, but it was so good to catch up with him. I know some of our subs are subs on Steelers. This is Steelers Touchdown. That's Steeler Nation Oz. If you're a listener of that, you might have caught Mark's episode. Mark and I finally got to catch up in person over the weekend. That was pretty exciting. Pretty glad to be able to catch up with him in person, have a few drinks, talk about Steelers, talk about what our plans are this upcoming season for the channel, what his plans are for his channel. Awesome sort of stuff. So really can't thank him enough for traveling almost 2 hours to hang out with me, particularly as it on a Sunday afternoon as well. Steeler out west, great to see him in the comments, mate. Saw that Anthony Miller sent out a cryptic tweet saying, "Thank you, Pittsburgh." What do you think is going on with that? Yeah, I mean, look, we might know something there. We might see something coming in the next few days. Maybe the whole piece about Anthony Miller was that he was an insurance policy if Calvin Austin didn't show that speed and didn't come back. Mark and I talked about unlikely scenarios that could happen, with the Steelers through training camp in the preseason. I'd mentioned, what if Calvin Austin doesn't come back after his injury? And by all reports, he's been showing real promise. Patrick Peterson's been talking about him on his podcast with Brian McFadden. We've heard a lot about Calvin Austin impressing people. He's a very blazing fast speed. There's actually, if you go around YouTube, there's a theory out there that if you actually look, he ran faster than his time at the combine. And he ran well under 4.2. But by the time the TV had caught it, and updated the number, that it was actually really far off. So perhaps he's even faster than like a 4.2, 4.3, 40-yard time. And there's Jazz in the live chat. Good to see you, mate. Look, maybe that's it for Anthony Miller, and unavailability is the worst availability. Totally it, Brian Brown, totally it. We'll see. It is interesting, particularly when you think about Mitch Trubisky and his relationship with Anthony Miller, but then you also think about Allen Robinson and his relationship coming from Chicago. There's some interesting aspects in the Chicago ties and who's comfortable with who. If anything, it's probably the fact that Austin's doing really well. The fact that they remember when they brought him back on that deal. And I think his deal's about 1.8 million plus a bonus with what they had to do with him. But you remember they didn't actually have Allen Robinson signed when that happened. And they hadn't got Calvin Austin back to know fully the extent of where he was at in the process. Hakeem Butler was definitely not there. Yeah, I don't personally think he's going to make the 53. But you didn't have Allen Robinson. I don't even think Boykin had been re-signed when they re-signed him. So definitely interesting to look at that overall wide receiver room. Someone might have impressed them as well. We also got Jordan Byrd as the return guy. So we'll see what he does in the preseason and the practice as well. But we'll kick off the show a little bit of a focus on Anthony Miller. So great question. Steelers out west. William Ward brings up, William, I don't recognize if you've commented before with us. So if you're a fairly new sub, absolutely welcome. If you do listen to us all regularly, this is the first time you've got to jump into the live chat. Awesome. So good to have you. And if you haven't been there before and I brought you up, my bad. But William Ward says, I hope to get out of the students, go ahead and win the division. I think maybe the Steelers sometimes. Yeah, autocorrect on YouTube is weird. Trust me, it says some weird things when I comment as a live listener and stuff. But I hope they go ahead and win the division. Terry Bradshaw, Big Ben was playing and made to playoffs and won the Super Bowl en route for 100 set. Yeah, look, I agree. That needs to be the absolute focus is a Super Bowl, getting back there. Mark and I were talking about it when we caught up on the weekend, and I'd said to him, this year is about winning a playoff or game or two, and then next year they've got to go in it to win it. Anything else is a bonus this year. But you can't help when you put your black and gold goggles on as a Steelers fan, you can't help but think there's something different. There is definitely something different. And that was sort of talked about as well on the Football and podcast with Ben and TJ. That was an awesome show too, so you should go check that one out if you haven't yet. TJ's just locked in. We're so lucky to have that. There's a few things that I took some notes down on that show. Probably try and put something out later in the week around that. But look, we'll get into today's show. So for those of you that listen to us, definitely some of you in the live chat, I know that. For those of you listen to us on our Friday night show, our TDU Boys, our flagship show, I'm looking at trying to get a guest on for that this week in Mark's absence. someone that I miss talking Steelers with. So we'll try and get them on, and a good friend of Mark and mine in the Steeler community. But if you missed our show last week, or literally 3 or 4 days ago, not only can you go get that, find that on YouTube, but also we talked about the Steelers roster and how it was kind of sitting right now. And we did it. It was a bit of a keep, cut, consider kind of sort of role. And we did it by spinning the wheel. And that's something that a lot of you love live. I actually had a different show planned for today, but I thought I'm not going to leave it unfinished business considering we only got through I think we got through about 20 to 25 players. There's about 90 on the roster. Every day there's sort of 1 or 2 that sort of leave. There's about 80 guys on the roster right now. So you guys love spinning the wheel. I love spinning the wheel. I think it's fun. You don't know what's going to happen. So we're going to do it via spinning the wheel. We'll go for about, I don't know, half an hour, 35 minutes kind of thing. We'll see how we crack on. But given that I don't have Mark with me and I always love the live chat, I want you guys to jump in and give me your perspectives on these players as I talk through them and we go via spinning the wheel. Even if you just want to give me a word that you think is associated with them, and you can be as serious or not serious as you like. So we are going to bring up our trusty Steelers wheel. Let's bring that one up there. Now, unfortunately, it refreshed. So therefore, the players we talked about on the weekend, I'm going to do the best off my memory as fast as we can. And William Ward says, let's go Steelers. Let's go win a Super Bowl. I freaking love that attitude. In June, in the dog days of summer. I love that. So good. So we're gonna get spinning the wheel. As I say, throw your comments, throw your top phrases or words that are going to describe this player. Even if it's a yes, no, don't like him, love him, difference maker, whatever it's going to be, throw it in there. As I say, we'll see how we crack through. I've got the roster up in front of me as well, so I'm looking at kind of almost 3 screens right now. So we'll see how I go without a co-pilot getting this and making it fun for y'all. All right, let's kick it off. We're on the nose after it's one of the things we love to do. Okay, so we've got 74 in there. So we've got a lineman at 74, which is Spencer Anderson. Okay, so Spencer Anderson's an interesting one. I did a show a few weeks ago about centers. It was meant to just going to be about Spencer Anderson on its own. And then I was doing some comparisons. And then I become halfway through I wasn't the biggest fan of them when they signed Mason Cole last year, but I did become a big fan of him, maybe more through his absence last year than anything else. Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting one with Spencer because he's someone that's played a bit of center, and I wonder if they've brought him to blood that into him. But I watched his tape. I haven't been able to watch him tape a center because college tape's really hard to get. I keep trying to find snippets, and I don't mean like a 30-second clip. I mean like a proper, I can watch 10 minutes of offensive play. But he's really good at guard on the right side. So I think he'll make this roster a minimum practice squad. He could be a real smoky tip. I'm just interested to see in training camp whether they're trying to turn him into a center or not. We did get a comment. Oh, I was going to say to everyone too, it's about 55 F today where I am. So it's actually really cold with the wind. That's why I'm wearing a big insulated jacket. But Brian Brown here in Florida, this show called Aussie Gold Hunters. Matty and Mark, if you ever go gold hunting, I have seen Gold Hunters. I do know about that one. You know what's funny? When you're about 11 or 12, you go off to a place if you live in my state called which is New South Wales, Sydney's capital, New South Wales. You go there and you go to a place called Bathurst, and it's known it was where a lot of the gold rush happened in it was early 1800s. And it's a big area with merino wool. Australia's pretty famous for its wool exports. But you go gold panning and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't say I go gold hunting. There's something though that if you get, I'm sure you guys have the same thing in the US. You have those metal detectors. If you went to the beach, you could get a certain amount of gold or whatever. I watched a funny YouTube short the other day that had someone that goes around the US, the big capital cities like New York, and scrapes away all the grime and crap out of the road and the drains, and then sifts through it and agitates it, and then gets all the minerals and sells it, and that's their full-time job, which is just unbelievable, really. It's kind of like searching for the coins in the couch, but on a grand scale. Here we go. And Steeler Out West has said, yeah, the Steelers' Wheel of Fate has begun. I don't think you totally botched that. That's cool. Susami knife on the defensive line. Yeah, he has actually played a bit of tackle, Spencer Anderson. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they look to him, but I did really like him at guard there, actually. So, yeah, don't be surprised to see him make the 53 for someone else to not. The only thing is how well he's adjusting to center, because otherwise Ryan McCollum's really the only backup center we technically have on the roster right now. All right, let's spin the wheel for the second time of this show. Kind of gets you with your eyes, especially because I'm seeing it twice. All right, number 8, Kenny Pickett. Well, we've done a lot of shows on Kenny Pickett. Now, Kenny Pickett, obviously, big year coming in. Even Colin Cowherd, the guy that pretends he likes the Steelers, I reckon he hates them half the time. Definitely wanted Ben to retire years earlier. He seems to be on the train with Kenny Pickett as well. I love his jersey. I love wearing it. I love watching him. You feel like they're always in it. I can't wait to see what he's like after having a full offseason to properly prep and get used to the Steelers offense. So can't wait to see Kenny Pickett in a Steelers jersey this season and rocking it as QB1. Cool. I love this. I love the Steelers Wheel of Fate. All right, we've got 52. So they've been a little different linebackers. I think this is a Landon Roberts. No, he's 50. Okay, Mark told me he was 52. So we actually don't have a 52 on the roster, so I can take that out and we can go again. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. The linebackers are really interesting. I'm hoping I hope the wheel gives us a few linebackers. Okay, we get to 85. I think we had that on the weekend, and we worked out that was the Dan Chesner, the wide receiver, and we basically went, nope, he's not making the 53 or practice squad, so we weren't going to talk about him. So we are going to leave that out. But he is 6'3", 203-pound wide receiver, so maybe he could be someone that becomes a gunner on special teams. All right, so we then move. I feel like I'm in a poker machine room, actually, like a slot machine room. I think that's what you guys call them over the slots. So this is Toby Ndukwe, linebacker. He's a rookie out of Sam Houston State, 6'3", 250 pounds. Not a guy I know a heck of a lot about, but he's someone that, again, you may see actually be on practice squad. There might be special teams value. You're probably going to see him a bit in the preseason. So let's wait and see what he's going to do. Brian Brown's like bringing Mason Rudolph. That's it. But yeah, I think these are the sorts of names, though, you don't know about, and then they do something, and then people get on the hype train, kind of like the Jameer Jones a few years back. So, let's see what he can produce. You never want to count someone out. He's an older rookie at 24. Doesn't come from the most, well-known college in the world, but he's 6'3", 250 pounds. Who knows? He's got a big body. He could be a nice run stopper, and he could be really valuable on special teams where there's been a lot of turnover, and Mark rightly pointed that out on the show on the weekend. All right. Where is it going to go next? 56, Alex Highsmith. Well, that is a very good segue there because I've got a show coming out this week. Mark and I had a good chat about Alex Highsmith actually on the weekend when we caught up, not in the show, but when we caught up for our, sherbets and beverages on so it says practice squad. No, I know you meant for 45. But Highsmith's an interesting one. People, Mike Tomlin described him as an elite Robin. That should be a compliment. Some people saying his dad didn't take that as a compliment. Fine. But yeah, I'm going to do a show probably this week. If not, it's going to make it for the weekend around how much should he sign for. I did this last year. I've got to listen to my own show that I did about 8 months ago. I want to listen to that. I'm going to factor that in with some of the deals we're seeing with free agency and update those numbers. Around 17 million, 16.8 was I think where I went last time. I don't feel like I've moved away from around there, but I want to have a look at a few deals so we can contextualize some of that money. But he's primed for a big season, number 56, Alex Highsmith. I think we're getting into trouble there. But if we're monetized, we might be able to do something there. Hey, Michael O'Malley, welcome. Number 9, come on, number 9. Okay, well, let's see. I love spinning the wheel. It's just something fun about it. It's good stuff. All right, 77, Broderick Jones. Now, I think Mark and I might have got him on the weekend, but I'm going to mention him anyway. So with Broderick Jones, obviously, he was considered a loser by Kaboli, according to an article. I think it was on Steelers Now, because Dan Moore had come back and played well. I don't agree with that. That doesn't make you a loser. They did contextualize that you're either a winner or a loser because Dan Moore was a winner. He had to be a loser. I don't like that. But I don't think he's going to start the first 2 to 4 games. Be prepared for that. You're not going to put him up there against the 49ers straight out unless he's absolutely killing it in preseason. And then you probably won't even see a lot of him in preseason except for maybe one game. They'll probably look to blood him and not let him get injured. It's a big – people always forget the process that it is playing your final college season, going to the draft process, then trying to make a team. You've got rookie minicamp, you've got OTAs, you then got normal minicamp, then you got training camp, then you got preseason, and then you go into a 17-week season. They're going to want to manage his snaps. So that's one of the key things to prep for. I did say to Mark, if you saw him early, because remember the pass rush of like Bosa and the 49ers, Garrett, and as much as we don't like him and the Browns, you've got to think about the fact that that's a lot to ask from someone. I do think if Darnell Washington is really showing out and if Freeman's injury is bigger than what we know, perhaps then both standing next to each other on the left might give Broderick a chance to start earlier. But I fully expect that we don't see him the first 2 to 4 weeks. I agree, Michael O'Malley. I don't want Kenny Pickett getting banged up in the first couple of weeks and then he's having to play through injury the rest of the season. I'd rather him have a clean pocket, get some rhythm, get things going with the receivers, get Najee going before we start worrying about blooding an O-lineman there. But let's see. Yeah, J Devil, it could be starter halfway through the season. So we'll see. But I do agree with Jerome in the fight. I don't want to see a red shirt season from a guy that you picked at number 14 and traded up to get in the NFL draft. It's actually good. I get to catch my breath when you're doing a solo show. So that's always a battle. Gunner, he had him on the weekend. He's not making the roster. I'm removing the choice. We're going again. I don't see a path to a roster spot for Gunner Olszewski. You hear that word in like elections or selections around the path to getting it. We do have 34, and 34 is Shandon Sullivan. Now, don't be put off by Mitzi hearing about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Michael O'Malley by Gunner the Fumble. I love that's great, man. That's solid. But don't be put off by anything Shannon Sullivan. People say, the Steelers don't have a slot corner with Sutton going and a few other changes they made with Morlett going. Shannon Sullivan is a slot corner. He played 85.36% every snaps last year. We're at the slot. That was like 886 snaps out of 1,036 snaps. He's played corner the majority of his career. He's the slot corner for the Steelers unless they move people into those schemes. That could be a Pat P. It could even be a Levi Wallace. It could be a Kazi. But the slot corner on paper right now is 100% Shandon Sullivan. Even knowing, good to see you, mate. We haven't even seen you in live chat in a little while, but you love the wheel, mate. You made the wheel when we did the day 3 of the draft. I've gone back and listened to some of that. There's some classic moments. Brian Brown says, like Dan Moore never almost got Pickett killed. Oh, 100%. But I think that, I say, I'm just interested to see. It'll just be interesting to see how much he's developed or not. Big Ben's a big fan of Dan Moore. I'm interested to see whether they do try Dan Moore at right tackle. I thought that Dan Moore would end up a guard for the Steelers when you looked at his draft process. That doesn't seem to be something they're talking about. We don't need it with Sam Marlowe anyway and Herbie that you've brought in. But yeah, Okorafor's on that big deal we all talked about, but actually this year you can move him. If you can move him for something worth it, it's not too bad. And certainly next season you can move him because it's only a 3-year deal and it's in the Steelers' favor. You're only here to take about, I think it's $5 million on the dead cap hit for this year. So maybe Dan will prove something, or maybe he just becomes that swing tackle. Who knows? But we will see as the preseason and rolls on into the season. But yeah, you got a good point there, Brian. All right. It goes like both ways. Kind of trips you out a bit. All right. Number 1. We don't have number 1. That's kind of locked in as like Gary Anderson. I should probably put the number in the side numbers that you can remove. But yeah, that's just seems to be reserved for him. We know Pickens wanted that. I think Pat P had talked about that besides not like number 7. But we will see. 61 is Mason Cole. We did talk about him on the weekend. Keen to get him back. He's obviously on the squad. He's just starting center. He's going to have a big year and being a linchpin for the offense. So that's all right. We'll cover him quickly. Nothing hurts there, especially when you've got people back in the live chat that might not have been there on the weekend. Okay, 68. So it's definitely a show focused on the offensive line. This is a guy called William Dunkel out of San Diego State. Now, he's played 1 year, 330 pounds, 6'5", big bloke. We'll see what he does in preseason, but, at best to be a practice squad player. That's all there is to say about that. Okay, we got 65. So we've talked about Dan Moore. We did talk about him quite a lot. The Coltrane, that's a nice one. You're all on fire today, Michael O'Malley. But 65, Dan Moore. Let's see. It'll be interesting to see where he slots in, particularly if Broderick Jones does prove himself as a day one starter, week one starter. It is going to be interesting to see what he does. And also training camp. We've heard a lot of good things about how he's gotten bigger and how he's been, a bit more focused and he's showing up better in the scheme. Let's see it. Let's see it at training camp. All right, 22 is Najee Harris. A big year for Najee coming up. I really want to see them working into the short passing game. Again, I think that's a really big deal. We saw that toward the back end of the year with Kenny Pickett. I think that showed overall, not only showed Kenny's confidence, I think it showed the chemistry on the offensive line that they were able to protect Pickett for long enough, or at least that he felt confident enough to break from the pocket. Particularly if you think about that touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens to close out the year. So really excited by what Kenny and Najee can do together. Hopefully this line can create some holes that Najee can go barreling through. Big year for Najee. We don't want to see him take too many snaps, which is why we've got Warren in there. We don't want to have to see him take 380 snaps. I think he had about 260 to 290 last year off the top of my head. We don't want to have to see him, do the 380 again. If he can have as much punch and as much fire with 300, then we've got to really consider, do we take the fifth-year option on Najee? I think they will, instead of having to try and sign or find another running back again. But then it becomes, do you sign him on a longer-term deal after that? So Najee, it's a big year for the Steelers needing Najee, and it's a big year for Najee needing to prove himself to the Steelers. Yeah, I see 1,200 on the ground as well, Jer. And hopefully like 400 to 600 in the passing game if Kenny Pickett can fire. But it also depends on, we've got a lot of wide receivers. We've got receiving tight ends. You've got X factors like a Connor Haywood. So it's hard to sort of say that. But yeah, still out west, you said 15 TDs. Is that passing and running? Receiving and running, or is that just running? Let me know in the live chat. Michael Mel, yeah, you said low ball estimate. I kind of agree, except I think they're going to use Warren more and look to spell Najee, because you want Najee firing in the postseason. But I kind of agree. We had 34 before. I don't know why it didn't remove, but that's okay. We'll give myself half a breath. Okay, number 16 is Jordan Bird. So he's the return specialist wide receiver. That's what he's been designated. Rookie out of San Diego State. They've got a few guys on that roster. 5'9", 170 pounds, super quick. I'm really keen on him. From what I've seen on little flashes on tape, I like it. I don't want to see it in preseason. I want to see it in training camp. So let's see, and let's hope he can stay healthy so we can give that a real red hot go, given we've already said guys like Gunnar O are out. But remember, the rule change on the kickoff means that the returners, it's a different sort of priority to them. Minkah Fitzpatrick. What can I say about Minkah? One of the legends of the league. Actually, Bucky Brooks and legends currently playing. Bucky Brooks and Danny Jeremiah did a show in the last week where they focused on building blocks you build your franchise around. And they were talking about players that had bigger impact than just their position. And one of the guys they talked about was Derwin James a lot. The other they talked about was Minkah Fitzpatrick because of what he does at free safety, but he does roam around, does play in some sort of schemes as a strong safety. Remember, not last year, the year before, so 2021, he led the Steelers, or he was in the top 2 for the most tackles. He was one of the top 10 in the league. Huge for Minka Rea to come down the box. He's everything to this defense. And when you've got stalwarts like him, Cam Hayward, and TJ Watt, like what more can you ask for? There's probably 3 Hall of Famers there, right there. So particularly if they can get a Super Bowl at some point together in the next couple of years. So Minka, absolutely awesome choice. And I just love watching Minka play, man. You're done. '18, Deontay Johnson. So Deontay Johnson, 5'10", 5th year in the league, out of Toledo, was one of the first Steelers wide receivers in a long since AB to get a deal re-signed. No touchdowns last year. Case of the dropsies. Was decent on yards. He's got to have a big year, man. If he doesn't have a big year, I think all of us are going to be crying out for him to play better. I feel like, look, I never thought they were going to beat the Chiefs in Ben's last ever game. Well, no, I did. I didn't have a chance and a path to victory, but it was more likely they wouldn't. But he dropped some. If you go back and watch that game, like that's why Juju came back, not only just to play with Ben, but because he could be his reliable hands. And he knew that they needed him if they were any shot at winning. DJ's got to start catching some of the balls he drops. It's just not good enough. And like the problem that we talk about it when I grew up playing rugby, we talk about a lot of like, don't worry about what's in front of you. You've got to catch the ball first and hold on to the ball. I feel like I know he's got shifty feet. I know he can get around people. I know that he's elusive, but you've got to catch the ball first. And sometimes I feel like he overthinks things before he actually catches the ball. So yeah, he's got to catch that stuff. I think they need to move him around a bit more. I do think Pickens feeling more comfortable in the offense. I think DJ not feeling like he's got to be the number one because of Allen Robinson there. Hopefully that competition helps him out. But I also don't want to see any more sourpuss comments in the locker room after a game. Like, you got to be all in on it. Stop criticizing the fans. We buy the jerseys. You get paid money for life. You set up your family with intergenerational wealth. Just play the game. Do it properly. Focus. And I think everyone in the live chat pretty much agrees with me. So that's cool. $47. Now, we got that on the weekend. Obviously, that's Mel Blunt's number, and I almost ruled it out. And, yeah, that's not on the roster, so we'll pull that out. Spin the wheel. Spin the wheel. Yeah, he had a few drops, though, Brian. But, yeah, I agree with you. He doesn't run the right way a lot of the time. We go to 95, which I'm pretty sure is County Benton. We talked about him. I think we got him on the Saturday show. Just so you know, that I'm a big fan. As I said on Friday night show, American time, County Benton was someone that I was he's my best D tackle, the second best D tackle outside of the first round, only because I heard such great things about Mazai Smith. But I do love Benton. I love his versatility. The more you hear about him, the more you love him. Dancing bear, wrestler, chemistry with Nick Herbig, as well. Looks the part. Gets to learn behind Cameron Haywood. He could be one of those picks that for years to come, where how did this guy fall? To pick 50, where we selected him in the NFL draft. Just unbelievable. Can't wait to see him ball out for the Steelers this year at nose tackle and potentially rushing, from more of the classic DE in a 3-4 set. All right. Cracking through. Oh, yeah. County Benton's definitely going to be in there. 100%. 100%. Lights out. All right, number 19, which is Calvin Austin. We started off talking a lot about him at the start of the show, so I don't want to go too deep into Calvin Austin. But what I will say while we spin the wheel for the next one, I wouldn't mind you guys giving your over and under for yards and TDs that you expect from Calvin Austin. Remember, he could be in part of the return game. They could use him in the sweep game. They could use him in whatever Matt Canada thinks he's going to do on offense. So while I spin the wheel for the next one, would love to see what you guys put in the live chat for an over and under maybe, or just an expectation on yards and TDs. What have we got there? Switch back the screen. Juju is gone. No, that's Calvin Austin's number. Hey, Jens. Hey, Pittsburgh Toddy. 57. I don't think there's... Montrevious Adams. Well, he could be a casualty of Armand Watts of Keanu Benton. Depending on what they think Loudermilk's going to do this year. Montravius Adams, you can cut, save, I think it's about $2 million on the roster, about a $500,000 cap hit. So I think he's a practice squad guy or he doesn't make it. That's my gut feeling right now. Just with who else they've got between Haywood, Benton, Ogunjobi. You've got, I think Armand Watts will make it over Adams. We've talked about Loudermilk. There's a few other sort of guys in the mix as well. I think Adams could be, someone that's on the outside looking in, unfortunately. Number 10. We've got a... my mouse has decided to do a weird scrolling thing. Oh, Mitch Trubisky. What am I thinking about? Mitch Trubisky. Now, he's someone that I had at them trading, this season. I still don't see that. I still see that as a potential possibility if someone else's team, their quarterback goes down the preseason or early on and they really want someone. I don't think it's the Steelers' intention to do that, but if someone's going to trade the house for him, trade the house for him. But I said to Mark on the weekend, I find it interesting the relationship that Kenny and Trubisky have, which is really positive. Their wives are friends as well. It's kind of, I feel like Trubisky's cementing himself in. Maybe he'll be better for a second year in the offense as well, and better things around them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Trubisky goes and whether he finishes the season as a Steeler. Let's see, it's Pittsburgh Toddy. I'm so angry. I just lost a game of chess after being up a queen, bishop, and 3 pawns. I want to stop. Well, please don't do that. I don't know. Did I chess myself? Yeah, I hate when you get up and you get up like that and then you find a way. Yeah, I know how you feel. Michael O'Malley says, off topic. No, it's fine. Why, if there are 17 games, do they not expand the roster to 60? Well, see, I think there should be 18 games. Particularly because you have a bye between the preseason and the season. I just don't know why they don't need 18 games. It seems stupid. And then I agree. Like then you have the rosters like maybe it's 60 with 56 getting a helmet on game day. Honestly, I don't understand. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know if 60 might be too much. And remember, they've got the expansion rule about how many quarterbacks get a helmet and the elevation. That's just complicated. I agree. You should just say 60, 56 on game day. You have to have the 8 or 9 offensive linemen. I think it's 8 offensive linemen, but you've got to have 9. You've got to have 3 quarterbacks. And go from there. Like I don't understand. So yeah, I actually really agree with you there, Michael. It seems silly, but no, 18 games thing's just daft as well. It's just really silly. No, yeah, totally threw a number out, but it actually makes sense. There's 60 and then you have 56 with the helmets on game day. It's actually makes more sense. All right, number 50 is Landon Roberts. I think Mark told me he was 52. Maybe he's going to end up there. Maybe he talked about that. I don't know. But that is Landon Roberts. He's going to be a run stopper, 238 pounds, 6'1". There's been a lot said about him. Going to be really important, as I said, run stopper in that game in those 3-4 sets. You're going to see him play more snaps in the AFC North football game, like the divisional matchups, particularly some of the other AFC, the teams that run heavy. I can't wait to see him trying to shut down McCaffrey by going down the middle. But E. Roberts could be a big one for us. And again, don't put out that he couldn't be a decent contributor on special teams as well. So looking forward to seeing him in a Steelers jersey. Remember, they would have had a lot of scouting on him, having Brian Flores, who I think brought him to Miami from the Patriots originally. So, it'll be interesting to see. Now, 35 was Arthur Maulet's number. They've given that to Luke Baccaro, the DB out of San Diego State, who's floated around. I think he was on the practice squad last year. That'd be best scenario for him. He's not making 53. We can keep moving forward. We'll go for maybe about 5 more minutes. See how many we've got. So if you've got questions, go to unleash hell. What, Luke Baccaro or E. Roberts, as Mike Tomlin likes to call him. Yeah, I know. I did too. Someone said to me recently he was 52. I was like, no, he's 50. But anyway, he probably will be 50. Now, 29 is Levi Wallace. I actually did a show last week on when it came out last Friday. So it should be pretty fresh if you go search it after this show about the unsung hero of the Steelers defense, and at least their secondary, I actually think it's Levi Wallace. So you can go back and check that show out for that. But also this season, Alfonso Graham, the super fast, twitchy Morgan State running back who's 5'9", 180 pounds, change of pace guy. He's wearing 29 in training camp. Obviously, he won't wear that number while Levi Wallace is on the team. So, yeah, it's important to talk about those two. If you see two 29s in training camp, it's not Levi Wallace lining up at running back or some other sort of special teams or other sort of offensive set. So we're going to remove that one. Took care of two players on the 90 there. Hey, Josh, how you going? 37. We talked about that on the weekend. My gosh, heart's gone. That's Elijah Riley. Now, he's someone that you kind of think definitely on the practice squad. I actually think he'll make it because of what he can do as a general DB, play a bit of safety, play a bit of slot, play a bit of corner. They did like him in training. They liked him so far in the preseason. They've had him. There was definitely some discussion around him out of OTAs. I think in some of the mini camp press conferences. He's definitely someone that Grady Brown talked about when they spoke to the Steelers defensive coaches as well. So, yeah, Elijah Riley, I think actually could end up on the 53 again. So interesting to see. Hey, Jennifer. Yeah, definitely think he'll be making it for sure. He'll definitely on the practice squad. 98, which is Mark Robinson, I think. My mouse is doing the scrolly thing. No, DeMarvin Leal. What am I talking about? Absolute brain fade from me there. Mark Robinson's 93. But moving back to Leal, Leal's going to be here. He was another one that they were talking about a lot through the OTAs and the first set of minicamp. Now, Leal's someone that can play a bit of inside, bit of outside. He's going to make it. He's the one I should have mentioned there, which puts Montravius Adams probably unlikely to make the Steelers, defensive lineman sort of amount of players. They usually take like somewhere about 8, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 9, depending on what they do. But because Leal can play outside, you can put him in wider sets. He kind of becomes like your 4th or 5th edge rusher with the outside linebackers. It's going to be cool to watch him play. It's going to make it really hard for opposing teams' offenses to scheme against him. And you only need him. He's sort of guy, if you got like 2 or 3 sacks before the bye and before midway through the season, bye's week 6, I think. But if he can do that, then toward the back end of the year, other teams have got to really think about him in terms of how they scheme. So excited for Leal to come out of the blocks. Second year could be really big for him. Really excited to have him on the roster. Yeah, and that's it. This D-line could be incredibly deadly when you've got Benton. And that's the thing. You get a guy like Benton, bring in a guy with a bit of experience like Alan Watts, who's actually on a bit more on paper than what people give him credit for. And like suddenly put it this way, people are more competitive in training camp, in preseason, in the weeks leading up to games. But you also have got it where one guy doesn't feel like he has to do everything in the weight of the world on his shoulders. They can just go out and play their game. And I think that's absolutely huge. I'm going to watch that tonight, my time. I'm going to watch that one tonight. Looks good. Keen to hear about Corey Trice. I love the pick on draft day, and I'm just keen to hear more and more about how much of a difference he's going to make for the Steelers. Okay, so we've got 84, which is Jamarcus Bradley, a wide receiver. I don't really even expect him to make the practice squad, so that's really all I've got to say about him on that one, to be honest. Yeah, totally, exactly. I think they'll take 9 in if you consider the flexibility of Leal, because they don't need 6 outside linebackers. All right, we talk about number 25. I'm not trying to prevent my mouse from doing the scrolling thing, and again, we've got a few guys there right now. We've got Cody Crest at wide receiver and Darius Haggins at running back. I don't think either of them are going to make it on the squad. So the practice squad, all the 53. So that's all I have to say about that. That's it. Still out west, you have your priorities right, mate. You have your priorities right. Number 5, which is Tanner Morgan's number, I think, because we talked about Mason Rudolph switching number. Yeah, Mason Rudolph is on number back, 6'2", 215 pounds out of Minnesota. Let's see what he can do with preseason. Now, he's a guy that could make the practice squad still. They might even carry 4 with how many games they've got to play. So let's see. But he's also a guy that, don't expect them. Don't be surprised if he plays a bit of week 1 that in the preseason they don't like it, then he gets cut. But with 17 games, and if you think you're making playoffs, you probably need to carry a quarterback on the practice squad, even if you've got your own roster. All right, we got number 28, which is Miles Killebrew. I think he makes it now purely because of all the talent that's left, or talent that's supposedly left the special teams. Good night, Brian. I know it's late on the East Coast. Good night. Enjoy. But I think Miles Killebrew makes it because of some of the changes we've got in special teams. He's getting paid a bit of money, though. This could be his last year in a Steelers jersey. So we shall see. All right. Why we spin that? Yeah, so apparently said the team was playing. Exactly. Mark and I were talking about that even before the draft. Talked about since draft. This Steelers defense is being built about being versatile and matchup specific, and it's awesome to see that. It's awesome to hear Steelers validating that. I'm glad that we weren't on the wrong train with that one. There's no 63 on the roster, so glad we were talking about that. We'll make it a quarter past the hour. And I appreciate everyone staying up late if you're on the East Coast too. 97, Cam Hayward. What? There's nothing I can say about this man. He's an awesome player. He's a leader of this team. He's an absolute talisman of the defense. Just incredible. He had a sneaky good year last year, getting into the backfield, even though it didn't fully translate to sacks constantly. Having guys like Benton will help, and Ogunjobi back will help manage his snaps, and that means we might be able to get another 3, not just 2 years, including this year, out of Cam Hayward, and that could mean Super Bowl, which would mean Hall of Fame for Cam Hayward. Yeah, exactly. And we should see who he passes that on to now. 42. Well, now that's James Pierre's number, and I think he'll be lucky to make the practice squad. We'll just make sure there's no other little running backs or anything at 42. No, there isn't. But as no one notices, Cam is the man. Agree. Awesome stuff. I love how his dad played in the league too, and now Connor's playing the Steelers. It's just all good. Allen Robinson, another guy we've talked about. I've got a few shows. You can go back and listen to those if you haven't before. Yeah, exactly, Toddy. Cam just needs that ring. But back to Allen Robinson. It's going to be really interesting to see how they scheme him around. People have just penciled him in the slot. That's actually not where he's had some of his best years. So I think the slot wide receiver position, apart from Calvin Austin, in particularly if Anthony Miller is being cut based on what Steeler Out West might have said earlier on, sort of the start to open the show. I think the slot position is going to be a lot more open. People are going to move in and out of that spot. You probably will see Allen Robinson start there to start the season, and then they'll start moving around, getting more versatile. But Allen Robinson is a key piece as a third wide receiver. It also means that if anyone gets injured for any sort of time, whether it's Pickens or Deontay, or even Calvin Austin, or even Freiermuth, we've got someone there that can go out and catch balls, and I think that's really important to have 3 guys. Look at the Bengals, how well they do with Higgins, Boyd, and Jamar Chase. There are plenty of other teams they could have picked for that sort of same scenario. It is really important that we've got 3 guys there, and Allen Robinson is a steal at the price we're paying for him this season. It's probably our second last guy. Yeah, maybe Jennifer. I think he's horrible. You can go there as far as I'm concerned. 55 was the much maligned Devin Bush. We don't have Cole Holcomb's 55. What am I talking about? He took the jersey. Love Cole Holcomb. I've got a reaction video when we signed him. You can go back, check that one out. I think he's more versatile than what people think. I think he's going to show out. My thing is, as long as the Steelers don't ask him to do too much, but you kind of don't think they will because of the way they've brought in a guy like Keanu Neal, who's had a bit of experience at linebacker. It's going to come down the box. They've kind of already said that. I think Holcomb could be really good for us. Really good for us. All right. Let's see if I can get one in about 40 seconds. Oh, yeah. Connor's getting some touchdowns. Number 49 is Chappelle Russell, the linebacker out of Temple. Don't know much about him. He's a 3-year player. He's the guy that fills your practice squad max. Probably not going to highly doubt he's going to make the 53. Good luck to him, though. And I hope he finds a spot somewhere in the league, even if it's not with the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, we'll do one more for the road, and then I've got to jump out, get back to my day job. It's so good to see so many of you in the live chat in June. You guys are the Steelers fans. You guys are the real freaking deal. Yeah, just awesome. And obviously, Mark's taking a break. Couple of week break from Steel Nation Oz, so we'll keep the content going here. I've probably got at least 2 shows between now and Friday's show. I'll try and get a bit more out to you as well. Number 96 is Brendan Fiocco. Braden Fiocco, sorry. He's someone I mentioned as well, which is why I think Travis Adams will be expendable. He is someone that definitely in that nose tackle position, 6'3", over 300 pounds, 3 years out of LSU, got good pedigree. I wasn't that thrilled about when they signed. I didn't not like it. I just was a bit like, so what? I don't really see there being like a deep contribution from him that's going to change it for the Steelers. However, for Hoko, actually, when you hear a lot of defensive guys talking about him, Carl Dunbar talked about him in a press conference recently. It was about a 27-minute show. The Steelers end up repeating all those press conferences, but it's a 27-minute show on press conferences with the Steelers defensive coaches, including coordinator and Terrell Austin on the Pittsburgh Steelers YouTube. Anyway, Carl Dunbar and that talked a little bit about Fehoko. So excited to see Fehoko in the preseason and in training camp to see what we can do with that. But he is definitely, as J-Double says, good nose tackle rotation for the run. Man, you guys could just do this show in the comments. I don't need to do this. But I am keen to see, I'm really keen to see Fehoko and if he can live up to expectations. And I hope he does. One more. I'm feeling... We don't. Man, that means a respin. I'm not going to go out on a no spin. That's not what this is. We're not losers. Yeah, Dale Lolly gets some things wrong, Jennifer. Write me next time we're on the show. I'll tell you about my Twitter battle with him. I don't mind people. People are going to be wrong in their life, but you don't slam someone and then they're wrong. So that's the thing. That's my only thing to say about Dale Lolly. I really liked him other than that, but yeah, no recognition. Tried to slam me on Twitter. He lost. He was wrong. That's all there is to it. But Jonathan Marshall's number 91, someone they brought in from the Jets last year. Again, I think he could be on the practice squad as an experienced DT. I don't see him being on the 53, though, particularly with the guys we've just talked about in Fehoko, and we talked about Benton and guys like that. So West, Laters as well. I'm probably going to do 1 or 2 more. Close out the 50. I know it is... You're out west, so you'll be all right. It's not as late for you. I don't really things to do. 33. I don't think we've got a 33 on the roster. Yeah, we do. Duke Dawson. What did I lie? Again, practice squad guy, probably not making the 53. I don't see it. Some people said he was a chance to make it. But with Corey Trice, I just think he's someone that's going to hold one of those veteran spots on the practice squad instead. Did he slam Jeff Hartman, Dale Lolly? Really? So he and I both know. I'll talk about it on next show. I know I said I was done. Still out west. I may as well round out to the top. So 38, Madre Harper and Jason Huntley. Huntley is more chance than Harper of making the squad, but again, practice squad for Huntley and Madre Harper cut. This is probably the last one at 49 minutes. We'll round out at 50 minutes. Plus, my throat's killing me. It's hard to go 50 minutes just talking on your own. 69. This is interesting. Kevin Dotson caught the ire of Steelers fans with some of his comments about just giving up. He's someone that I've said for over 12 months could be an interesting trade target for you. Even if you got a 4th or 5th back for him. You probably don't want to, though, unless you really think unless they think they're seeing something in Spencer Anderson and Ryan McCollum that I'm not, because if James Daniels had to move back into the center or Sam Marlowe had to move in, then you'd want him to slot in. You want as many starting quality O-linemen as you can get, but also maybe you'd swap him for a center if there was an issue with Mason Cole. So Kevin Dotson's an interesting one, but I don't yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I kind of know about that. Yeah. I know a bit about that. So anyway, at least he's working for the Steelers now. Good on him. I'm sure he's not a bad bloke, but I just don't like when people get on their high horse when they could be wrong, they are wrong, and then they go and slam you. I just don't like that. It's not very good. Jeff is famous. Oh, it's classic. All right. Well, with that, we are going to wrap up this week's episode of Steelers Mad Monday. Thank you all so much for hanging out, particularly. Thank everyone. But if you're up on the East Coast and it's just gone after 10 p.m. or almost, 10:30. Yeah, awesome to see you. Awesome to see you in the chat. And we will be back this week. So we'll probably get an Alex Highsmith show out. I've got another unsung hero video probably for the offense that I want to talk about. There's a few other kind of things that I had in the back of my mind. So, and then I am seeking out a guest for the show on Friday night. So pleased if I can get that. But yeah, just awesome to see you all. William Ward says, I love the Steelers. Hope that they got picked. Hope that Pickett does a good job at quarterback. Me too. Good night, no one you know. Missed ya. And hope you guys all like the spinning of the wheel. We've got through the majority of the roster, so I feel like pretty good about that. We might retire the wheel for now, but there's a few other cool wheel ideas that Mark and I have, actually. So we will see what they do. And yeah, Jennifer, I know. Can we start the season already? I just want to watch them play. It kind of sucks, but it's the countdown is on, Jennifer. Trust me, I'm getting married 2 days after game week 1 of the season, the first game against the 49ers, and it's not as far away as you think. It's far away if you're just a Steelers fan, but if you've got other things going on that way, trust me, it's not that far away. We're going to have a lot of content to come between now and then, especially with Mark off right now. Definitely stay tuned for what we've got to come. Really excited for it. But yeah, everyone, have a good evening. Have a great day. I know it was a public, you had the long weekend as well in the US. So I hope you had a really good long weekend and hope you get through a shorter work week if you were able to get a shorter work week. Ciao.